Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the full moon in Libra that happens on the 28th of March 2021. Thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and as you can see, I've dressed for the occasion. Tried to look nice. The full moon happens at 6:48 in the evening, and that's based on UK time. I always mention this, but please don't get too hung up on the timings of the full moon. It's a gradual process that I feel will be noticeable for about 3 days. So the 27th, 28th and 29th of March in this case. The chart you can see next to me is a snapshot of the sky at the moment this full moon is going to happen. And I'm going to look at how the planets interact and what energy they bring up, so that you can understand that energy and use it to your advantage. It's kind of like riding a wave. You look at the energy, you align yourself with it, and off you go. If you don't understand the energy, then it's much harder to align yourself with it, and it's much more likely that you resist it and you miss a wonderful opportunity. So the full moon is something that happens every 28 days. We've got the new moon usually at the beginning of the month when the moon is pitch black, and that's a time to plant seeds of intention and to look to the future and to say, what am I going to grow and build and work on? By the time you get to the full moon, the sun and the moon oppose each other. The moon is totally lit up, and it gets this sense of, oh, I've done my job. I'm at a point in my journey where I can look back and say, I've tried really hard, and now I'm able to release that. I'm able to enjoy myself. So it's kind of like a vacation. It's kind of like job well done, and letting go of that so that you can make space for the next cycle and really enjoying yourself in the process. I always feel the full moon quite strongly. A lot of people get a little bit anxious or rattled, especially sensitive people, because it is quite full on. So let's look at what the moon is lit up by. The sun is at 8 degrees in Aries. Okay, the sun is your consciousness, your identity, what really gives you a sense of power and drive and fulfillment on planet Earth, in the here and now, what you're doing while you're awake. Okay, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so it's spring. It's a cardinal sign that says it is my job to move ahead in life. No one else is going to do it for me. If there are obstacles, it's up to me to overcome those obstacles. And it's not just overcoming, it's actually finding a sense of joy and pleasure in working towards something that is difficult. If you take an Aries and you say, oh, here 10 million and a nice house and the perfect partner, and let's arrange everything for you, I don't feel an Aries would enjoy that, because an Aries appreciates the things in life, especially when there's been some personal effort made to get those things. They're much more meaningful rather than just things being handed to you. So that sun in Aries is going to make you quite willful. It's going to allow you to focus on goals that you want to set and then achieve. It also gives you a strong sense of willpower, that you're right, that you're not to be trifled with, and that if you want to do something, that's all the permission and approval that you need. So you're able to really stand in your power. So for everyone watching who struggles with asserting themselves, this is really a great time to simply own your truth and to be honest about it and to let the chips fall where they may. You're not particularly interested in other people's response, and specifically I feel you're not going to adapt your behavior or your words or your actions or what you're doing in anticipation of what other people may think or may do as a result. You're really committed to yourself and what you want, and that's great. I mean, it can cause a little bit of conflict, but it's certainly an energy that helps you progress in your life. And in my experience, whenever you do anything that's meaningful and important to you, conflict goes hand in hand, because whenever you do anything, whether it's the most wonderful thing in the world or the worst, someone is going to disagree with it. And the great thing about this is that you're not going to be put off by that. Now, you may think that being decisive and full of drive isn't very aligned with Libra, because Libra is famous for indecision. And I may be going against popular opinion here, but the Libras I've met in my life and my experience with the charts, I've always found them to be very decisive. Libra is a cardinal sign, same as Aries. So you've got not a cardinal sign, a mode. So in astrology, this is kind of astro jargon. You've got modes, and you've got cardinal, mutable, and fixed. And Cardinal is about me first. I decide, I'm the boss, right? Mutable is about being adaptable and saying, okay, I'm going with the flow, I will adapt myself. And fixed is I'm rigid, I'm maintaining the status quo, I'm not budging, everything has to stay as it is. And this is Cardinal, both with the Sun in Aries, my mission, what I'm doing, and Libra in the sense that it says, I decide who I have around me, what creates balance in my life, what I deem to be beautiful, what I'm going to accept and what I'm not going to accept. And it's a similar energy, but it's used in a very different way. Aries says, I am the most important thing and I can only do it for myself. I shouldn't ask for help and it's important that I push, push, push. Libra says, I am responsible for my emotional well-being, my environment, the people I let into my life, and it's much more decisive when it comes to other people and your experience. So it's not about taking the self and getting it somewhere. The self is already established in Libra and it has very specific likes and dislikes, and it's able to kind of diffuse those opinions into the world so that you put your stamp on what happens. So it's as simple as, I don't like the look of this living room, so I'm going to redecorate it in a very superficial way. Or I've had this relationship with my best friend for a few years now, but for the last 6 months, it's been super toxic. And even though I care about this person, I think that I'm going to make the decision to cut this off. Now, whether you think that's right or wrong to cut people off or to ghost people or whatever it may be, Libra is very able to do that because it has a very good sense of what works for the self that's already been established, and what doesn't work. So Libra doesn't torture itself, it doesn't put itself in situations which are like torture. It's able to move on. And also, if you look at the glyph of Libra, it is like a scale, so it is about inner balance and moving that inner balance into the outer world. But I always see it as a bridge with a bump in it. It's like a speed bump. So it's really able to overcome any obstacles and regain balance simply by looking at it and by making decisions. For Libra, I think that's the solution to what it's about, the decision-making process. And for Aries, it's about out of my way, I'm looking at the future. So Libra is more in the present moment and able to arrange things to its liking, and Aries is about let's get over there now. So the Sun and the Moon are both at 8 degrees. 8 in numerology is about power and strength. So the Sun in Aries isn't just any old ram kind of, staggering along. This is like the #1 athlete of rams. Giant horns, able to bulldoze down giant doors, to gallop over moats and to really storm the castle. You can get whatever it is you want. If you set your sights on it, you will get it. Chiron's next to it, so you may want to question that a little bit. I'll go into that in a second. But Libra is also, the Moon in Libra is also at 8 degrees. So a powerful sense of this is what works. If you get that message, if you're in any situation, let's say you're at work or you're with friends or you're by yourself, and you get this amazing sense that I find this right and I need to stick with it. If anyone comes in and kind of tries to challenge you or dissuade you, you're not going to be very interested in hearing that. And also you may be quite harsh in rebuking a person who you think is doing things which could potentially be harmful. And it may even make you think that if someone comes along and does something that isn't in your best interest, that it might be deliberate. So it's like, what did they mean by that? Did they try, was that a dig? Or did they bring this kind of task into my life just to distract me from what I'm actually trying to do? So I think there's a sense of suspicion and a sense of I am where it's at, and I have to be wary against everything else because they might throw me off balance or they might waste my time. So with that said, you can achieve great things. You can have and great things in lots of areas. Your life purpose, remember, fire in the tarot is the suit of wands, and that's masculine as well. So it's your job as such to listen to what lights you up and what fills you with fire, and then to do something about it. And then we've got the moon in Libra, which is air, and that's masculine as well. The ability to make decisions and to take things as they are in here and to insist that they be reflected in your outer world. So Libra isn't just any old scale. I think this is, because it's at 8 degrees, it's the heightened scale. You know, in one of the Egyptian stories on mythology, if you wanted to get into the afterlife, they take your heart and put it on one side of the scale, and then on the other side they put a feather. And if your heart weighed more than the feather, you went downstairs. If it was lighter than the feather, so you were totally pure and selfless and kind, then you went up. Probably not as many people upstairs as downstairs if the criteria are that strong, okay? But this is really, what I mean by that, this isn't just a decision, oh, this looks pretty, I'm gonna do this. You can really make amazing decisions and stand alone to make those decisions without anyone's approval, stick by them, see them through, and those decisions can have a really profound karmic effect on your life, on your experience, on your destiny. And because you're so powerful, you're able to decide for yourself and to make your life better. So if you do find yourself being somewhat harsh or intolerant, obviously don't immediately go on the attack, but also don't dismiss it and say, ooh, I'm being really mean today. If you have a strong reaction to something, it's there for a reason. And if you're being abused and you've rationalized that away, then sometimes you need to get angry and say, I am not going to accept this anymore. I have to be harsh if I want to get out of this situation. You know, like anger and all of these things that we try and avoid, they're really essential. And I'm sorry, this is kind of obvious. I know you guys know this, but they're essential to get things done and to shake things up. If you really don't want to hear it anymore and someone's just talking in your ear and ear and ear, and you've said, please stop talking 3 times and it just keeps coming, then sometimes you have to get someone's attention. So with the Libra, try and find some balance in that, but don't feel like you don't have the right to your own opinions and your feelings. In fact, the main thing of this full moon is that the value you've got is the ability to make sense of things and then to decide on your own without anyone's approval. And especially if you know that your decisions are going to make other people angry, you'll still be able to go through with it, because sometimes you have to. It's not, other people aren't living your life, you're living your life. Okay. So the moon also in Libra with all this opposition, because you can see how lonely the moon is on the left hand side of the chart all by itself, and then all these other things ganging up on the other side, it may make that harshness even more severe, because it's like, wow, there's so much going on that I have to react to, and poor me, I'm all alone and I have to deal with everything. And when you go into that little bit of put upon self-pity mode, then sometimes you give yourself the permission to be even harsher, because you're being treated badly too, as far as you're concerned. Everyone wants something from me. They're being really inconsiderate, so I get to be inconsiderate and tell them that in a very harsh and clear way, I don't like it. Yeah, so balance within that is important. We then have the sun sitting next to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, and it's exactly on the sun at 8 degrees in Aries. And being overly willful can potentially harm your relationships, but what it can heal is your process and the speed at which you're moving ahead with. Venus is also at 8 degrees in Aries. Venus in Aries is aggressive. Venus is the planet of love, beauty, and creativity, and it's the same thing. If I want to create something beautiful, it's up to me. So if I want to change my environment, then I have to get busy and put paintings or do the garden or whatever. Love is if I find something or someone I love, I can't, this is Venus in Aries again, I can't expect that person to find me and to come to me. It's my job to pursue that other person and to grab what it is I love. And why shouldn't I? Like, it's not even I have to seize the opportunity to make things happen. It's I want to initiate, I want to pursue something or someone I like. Again at 8 degrees, real power, no fuzziness when it comes to your feelings. If you like something, if you love it, it's crystal clear, it's right in front of you. And I think that's where the certainty comes from as well. Because if you love something so clearly and there's no doubt about it, then it's much easier to dismiss other people's naysaying and to say, well, I love it intensely. I'm going to go after it. It's that whole thing about love is blind. You feel something so intensely for another person, your whole family say, you can't marry this guy, he's no good, he's cheating on you. But you're so in love, for example, you're so in love that you just block that out and you're only focused on your partner, that you ignore everyone else and you do it. So this energy isn't about blindness or willful blindness. It's about being able to take your own will into your own hands and to do something with it. And then the moon in Libra gives you that amazing internal balance that prevents you from going from one extreme to the other and to find the middle path. So ultimately, listen to your gut and trust your decision-making process. It's spot on. We also have the part of fortune at 12 degrees in Aries. The part of fortune is the part of the chart, it's an Arabic part, so it's something some astrologers include, like me, others don't. It's a calculation between the sun and the moon, and it's the part of the chart where things happen most effortlessly. At 12 degrees in Aries, it's important that you do speak your mind. That's what's going to bring about your fortune. So if you zip it today and you're like, yes, sir, I'm sorry, please don't look at me, that's not the way forward. This is my opinion and I'm going to share it with you whether you want to hear it or not. That is the way forward. We've got Ceres at 13 degrees in Aries next to this part of fortune, the thing that looks like a question mark. That's an asteroid that talks about the abundance and what you're naturally being given on this day. 1 and 3 is 4, that's security and structure in numerology. It's like the Emperor in the Tarot. It's total self-reliance. I'm the boss, I'm the authority figure, and that is not even questionable. I've been the emperor for 800 years and I'm going to remain the emperor. So you can see how potentially self-righteous you could be with that total certainty. So again, please do assert yourself if usually you struggle with that. But you're not likely to go overboard and become a tyrant and a dictator because of this little moon by itself in Libra on the other side of the chart. So really, it's an amazing and quite subtle, nuanced energy where it's saying, if you do go overboard and you become a tyrant, that potentially could hurt you. We don't want that. So we're giving you balance. We're going to make you quite certain, very certain about what it is you love. You're articulate and able to express that and pursue that. And if you do, you create stability and abundance for yourself and you bring in those things that you want. 4 is also about structure and permanence. So the decisions and the things that you bring into your life, the things that you acquire today, are likely to remain in your life and to have a strong influence on your future. So if you do decide to redo the kitchen or the living room, they're going to look different for a while until you do them again or until you sell the place or whatever it may be. If you meet someone and you pursue someone, it's really likely that if you use the part of fortune, you start speaking to that person, hello, how are you? Then the abundance comes in, you're almost rewarded for that, and it's likely that that relationship is going to last. So if you do meet someone new and you get this immediate, amazing emotional reaction, then trust that. Don't say, oh, that's just a whim, let me dismiss it, I'm being silly again, I've got a crush. I would listen to it, it's really important. Okay, then we've got, let's see, we've got the moon forming some relationships with other things in the chart. First of all, you can see the moon forming a square with the midheaven. That's the arrow at the top of the chart pointing upwards. It's at 16 degrees in Cancer. The midheaven traditionally has to do with your work, and Cancer is about the home and taking care of people. So when you translate Cancer in a working sense, it's often about taking care of other people in jobs like through jobs like counseling or therapy or hypnotherapy, food, chefs, caterers, bakers, and then also the home. So real estate agents and architects and designers, interior decorators, that kind of stuff. 16, 1 and 6 is 7, that's the mind and creativity. Your decisions are something that will support you. You're able to get creative and to beautify your circumstances, and ultimately that beauty is something that takes care of you. So things looking nice, things being pleasant and palatable. That's really important to you. So if you're someone who can live in anything, or the environment really doesn't affect you, you'll notice that your environment does affect you today. You can get a sense of it, and if you don't like it, you can change it, and that's going to have a really positive impact on you. And that can be as simple as, oh, this part of my flat is empty, so I'm going to put 2 plants there because it looks nice and it makes me feel like I've got some plants and some life happening. It doesn't have to be very abstract. It can be really straightforward like that. And remember, Libra is really able to make a beautiful nest, a beautiful environment that it can feel safe in and it feel comfortable in, and that comfort then turns into strength. Libra translates it into strength that frees it up to think and to be inspired and to make decisions. I really admire Libras because they're very able to take abstract ideas and to see them as concrete truths and not to be so influenced by the outside world. And certainly the Libras I know never let anyone define their own identities. They're very certain of, this is me, take it or leave it. And that's super liberating. The next relationship the moon forms is a trine with Mars and the North Node in Gemini. Then it's sextile, Mars and the North Node in Gemini, sextile Venus and Chiron and the part of fortune in Aries. And then those trine the South Node in Sagittarius. That sextiles the moon and finishes this little circuit. And if you tilt your head a little bit, you can see that it creates this big blue rectangle. Can you see that? Between the moon, Mars, Venus, and the South Node. And a mystic rectangle in astrology is really what it says on the tin. It means that you have a mystical experience, and all that is that you feel like you can hear something bigger speaking to you, whether you feel it or you sense it or you get a vision. And often it translates into having real good luck in a particular area. So being a mystic in a specific field, so having a really amazing talent for something in particular. Now, the moon in air, Libra is air, connects with Mars in Gemini, and the North Node in Gemini, also air. So the thinking and the perspective is crystal clear, and that's a bonus that you've got anyway. Mars at 14 degrees in Gemini says, I'm free to say whatever I like, thank you very much. And the North Node, which is kind of, I mean, if you say that at a dinner party, people will be like, okay, what's coming next? So it's good to be that confident, but for other people who may not be so certain about where you're going with this, it may be a little bit intimidating and daunting and harsh. So again, that's the second time I'm using that word. So be aware that you may come across a little bit harsh. And if you're Mother Earth and everyone tramples over you, it's about time that you become a little bit harsh, okay? The North Node at 14 degrees in Gemini says it's your duty to speak your truth, otherwise you'll never be free. So we're getting somewhat self-righteous again now. It's like, I have to speak my truth. If your truth really hurts a lot of people, then ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? Like, it's important to speak my truth. I feel honest, I feel authentic. But if it doesn't affect any great change and it just harms 10 people who you're talking about, your truth happens to, I don't know, expose people or put other people in a negative light, then you do have to ask yourself, is this really worth my while? And is it worth all the pain that I'm going to cause to get this truth out there? And only you can answer that. And that's a tough question, because most of us don't want to hurt other people. But I was speaking to someone about this actually the other day. There are books, yeah, there are books, newsflash. No, the books I've enjoyed in my life are the ones that are really authentic and truthful, and that often, and this is a bit controversial I suppose, but that often don't put other people who are alive in the author's life as the most important thing. The books I've enjoyed is where the author talks about their lives to the public, i.e. the reader, in a truthful way, whether the people who are written about are angry or not. And one book that really, as an example, comes up with this is Answered Prayers by Truman Capote. Truman Capote was this American writer, In Cold Blood, amazing. I love that book. I did that in Sydney at university. Literary journalism, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. he was a very controversial figure himself, and he was friends with people like Lee Radziwill, Jackie Kennedy's sister, and he was in high society, and he gave this masked ball in the 60s, and it was this huge social affair. And he was friends with all these high society people, like the head of one of the networks in the States. He was really in the upper echelons of things. And he would go to dinners and things like that and gossip with all his friends. And then one day he came out with this book, or he published these chapters in Esquire magazine, and he told all these salacious stories. And the public were thrilled. It's like, oh my God, this content is amazing, juicy gossip. But the people who were being written about totally shunned Truman Capote, and they were his genuine friends. He thought they'd forgive him, but it really caused him major personal problems. He felt isolated. People turned their backs on him. So that's what I'm talking about. It's really a double-edged sword, because we do have answered prayers, which is super entertaining and great. But Truman, if you asked him, was that really worth it? For you to put that out there and to entertain the public? Was it worth it for you to tell the truth about your friends and to lose all of them? And only he, and only you, and only I will be able to answer those things for ourselves. And it's a very complicated subject. Yeah, a lot of people write their memoirs once everyone has already passed away, once they're in their 80s, because it's not as divisive, you see. So we've got that, forming a relationship with the moon. So the good thing is, because the moon is in Libra, even if you do say the most awful, true things, they'll come out beautifully. You're a little bit thick, aren't you? I'm kidding. Okay, then we've got the Mars and North Node sextiling, all of that energy that the sun's involved with. So the sun and Chiron and Venus and the part of fortune and Ceres, because they're all conjunct. They're all within 10 degrees of each other, so they blend their energies together. And the power is that you're not going to censor yourself, and it's really, really important to you that you're in your integrity and that you are true to you. That's the number one most important thing. So on this day, if you had been Truman Capote, and if it was, do I publish answered prayers or not? On this day, this full moon in Libra, he would have said, I'm publishing, because I've written it, it's my voice, it's essential that I put it out there, no matter who gets hurt. And then that energy is sextiles, no it doesn't, it trines the South Node at 14 degrees in Sagittarius. And that says, I have my own unique perspective on things, I'm educated, I'm just as valid as anybody else, it's important that I get this out there. It sextiles the moon in Libra, and again, Libra is very beautifying. It's ruled by Venus, the planet of love and beauty, which is in Aries on this day, so in the sign opposite to Libra, they're 180 degrees away. So you're much more pushy and self-willed and potentially victorious than you usually would be. I associate that with the Chariot in the tarot. You jump on your little cart and you say, go. You've got the black sphinx, the white sphinx, you're beyond good and evil because it's your will. You're doing it. And I don't know about you, but when I'm full of self-will, I get myself into problems sometimes. And when I balance things out and I think about them and I listen to my higher self, things become less extreme and I usually have a better time of things. So again, this mystic rectangle is saying quite clearly that you have the mysticism for a reason. The reason is that before you take drastic action, you're meant to check in with yourself and see if it's right for you before you act. Because your actions today are sharp. They have blades. They're going to have strong effects and impacts on other people's lives. I love this day. It's really, this is like a powerful energy. And there's a lot of transformation of the self and strengthening of the self, which I love. Okay, so next we've got a quincux between the moon and Libra. Quincux is that green line, the perforated kind of dotted line. Oh wow, and that forms a yod. A yod is known as the finger of God, so it's the one quincux going up to Uranus and Taurus. Then it sextiles Pallas Athena at 6 degrees in Pisces, and then we've got another quincux going back to the moon in Libra, and that is a specific talent that you're being given on this day for a particular karmic purpose. And the moon quincunxes Uranus, so your powerful statements and views and expressions Oh, and did I mention that Venus does rule Libra, so you're also going to be creative? I think I over-talked myself. I don't know if I've said that twice now or once or nothing. But Venus rules creativity, singing, music, art, writing, poetry, crafting. And with the Cancer midheaven at 16 degrees, you are creative. So another way, if you don't want to express your opinions really directly, is to express them through art. And I don't just mean painting, I mean any form of art, music, writing, whatever. So that's a wonderful outlet, and you'll really be able to send a strong, crystal clear message. So it's interesting that I did talk about the American author, because you are an American author yourself today, or a Burmese author, or Australian author, whatever nationality you have. Your words can really cause an uproar, and they can really shake things up. So again, if no one ever listens to you, throwing in that one sentence, today you will be heard. Then Uranus and Pallas Athena, 6 degrees in Pisces. So Pallas Athena is the warrior goddess. In Pisces, she's like a Valkyrie that is responsible for bringing the truth of spirit into the world. So you find it really easy to connect with your imagination, and if anything, it kind of comes to you. So you will have strong opinions and views naturally as a result of what's going on. You don't have to fabricate them and kind of suck them out of the air. They just come to you. The Pallas Athena quincunxes the moon again, so these wonderful opinions are going to be expressed beautifully. So lots of I don't like it when someone insults me with a smile on their face. I don't like that. It's like, if you're going to insult me, at least keep a straight face. At least align yourself with the mood. You know, read the room. If you're really gonna put me down, then at least say that seriously, because I take it seriously. If you smile while you're insulting them, I find that an extra insult, because you're pretending to be nice and you're insulting that person's intelligence on top of the actual insult by saying, if I smile, you won't even notice that I'm being mean to you, will you? I don't like that. It's phony, and it's a double whammy aggression. And that's something that potentially could happen today because of everything I've talked about. So if you find yourself getting passive aggressive or doing little digs with smiles, just realize that infuriates other people. It's one thing to be insulted, but for others it's like, oh, if you're going to insult me like that and be sanctimonious about it, I'm gonna go after you and retaliate. So yes, there is the potential to really step on other people's toes and to have them step back on yourself. The creative stuff is really good, and really being decisive and clear is really good. You're certainly not going to be misunderstood. I love it. And like I said earlier, we do need to be decisive and very direct at times. It's not comfortable, but it's essential. Okay, next we've got the opposition between the moon and the sun and all that Chiron stuff, which I've talked about. So the self, my journey, my healing, or balance, deciding what my community looks like, excuse me, and making decisions for myself and other people, which is a nice balance on this day. We've got the other quincunx with Pallas Athena, which I've spoken about. Then we've got a sesqui square, that's the red dotted line, between the moon and Jupiter, the lucky planet, at 22 degrees in Aquarius. Oh wow, if you're a teacher, especially if you're a teacher of your own content, so if you teach your own music, or if you teach people your own theory of science, or life coaching, or how to apply your technique to breed the perfect roses, you are going to have one of the best teaching days of your life. Jupiter is the lucky planet, 22 is the master number of the builder, and Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian, the teacher. So by speaking up about your truth, you'll really be able to express your teaching in a way that you haven't been able to reach before. Like sometimes you may have an idea, but sometimes words fail you, or fail all of us. And some days you start talking about something and the words kind of just topple out, and you're suddenly, oh wow, I explained this beautifully. And that's what's happening on the 28th of March during this full moon in Libra. So if you are a teacher, or if you are writing your own script or your own course, please get to work today, because you'll find that your words click into place so much better than they usually do, and it's like, oh, hallelujah, it's amazing. Remember, Jupiter is like being born under a lucky star. You're charmed. And the moon, already beautiful in Libra and able to express things beautifully, is now supported by this good luck planet at 22 degrees, master number of the builder. And it says that what you express on this day is going to have a structure of its own and can really stay there for a while. So if you want to make a course, or if you want to express something that will serve you in future as passive income or something that stands on its own, this is the date to do it. So get busy. We've got the moon forming a trine with Saturn at 11 degrees in Aquarius. Saturn is about structure and the rules and what you feel is right and acceptable. 11 is the master number of service, and in Aquarius, Saturn says what's acceptable and essential for you today is to put on your teaching hat and to express your truth to other people and to educate other people about it. You'll be of service to them. That seems kind of grand. It's like, oh, you have a message that other people will benefit from? Okay, great, let's hear it before we agree on that. But Saturn is really supporting you and saying you do have valuable information that is going to be of service. So if you believe Saturn and actually do it, by the end of the day or by the end of the weekend or even Monday, you'll realize, oh wow, I did teach that and it was of service. Thank you, Saturn, for encouraging me. It actually worked out. Hooray! That, I've noticed, between the moon now and that Saturn at 11 degrees, there's the trine. Saturn then in itself trines Mars and the North Node in Gemini, and Mars in the North Node then trine the moon again. And they create a triangle, and that triangle is known as a grand trine, which is an area of talent in itself. Speaking up, expressing yourself creatively will be of service to other people. It will be beautiful, it will strengthen your resolve, and it will make you feel like you've liberated yourself because you've finally spoken your truth. And that's your talent. And that talent, as I said earlier, can be really hurtful to people who are being creatively insulted through your work. So try and keep that balance. Then, that grand trine, if you take your head off completely and turn it 180, you'll see the two sextiles underneath the trine connecting the moon and Saturn. So the moon sextiles the south node in Sag, and then the south node in Sagittarius sextiles Saturn in Aquarius at 11 degrees. And they sit on top of this blue triangle, and if you look at it the other way around, it looks like a kite. Two little things on top and then the triangle underneath, that's a kite, okay? And a kite is a talent that can take off and has a life of its own. And the south node at 14 degrees in Sagittarius informs this, and it's the combination of you being so confident in yourself and the addition of your imagination, which imposes itself on you. Take those two things, work with them, express the result, and that's really the talent that will have a life of its own. So your work will take on a life of its own and will stand on its own. You can create something that has its own energy today. So I don't often get charts where you have a mystic rectangle. That in itself is remarkable because it is such a gift. If you have a grand trine in your chart, it means you're really, really exceptional in an area, in one area. So we've got a grand trine in air here. If you look at the chart of Margaret Thatcher has a grand trine in air. And regardless of whether you like her or not, she was someone who was very able to speak to the public regardless of the outcome. She was able to put her views across, which were very controversial and did not go down well at all, and still stick to them. So it's a similar vibe. You're able to stick to your truth and express it, whether it hurts other people or not, and you see your truth and your vision as the most important. So that's the talent, to really embrace your views and opinions and to take no prisoners, and that's a bit of an iffy talent. I mean, it's cuts both ways. And then so having that in the chart also makes it exceptional, this ability to communicate, then the mysticism, and finally the kite, that you're able to create something with that which takes on a life of its own. So this is a remarkable day. We're just oozing talent and support. And it would behoove you to make use of it. I use that word way too much. Okay. Anything else? Let's see. We have got, okay, so the moon has formed all these relationships. I've mentioned those. Yep. Let's see what the other planets are doing that I haven't spoken about. The only things I haven't spoken about really are Mercury. Mercury is at 19 degrees in Pisces, so the communication planet is underwater. So you're super imaginative and your emotions rise to the surface and you're able to put them into words. So there's no disconnect between the way you feel and the way you're able to articulate the way you feel. And that's why it's so good to get expressive, because of that connection and alignment. And finally, Pluto I haven't spoken about because Pluto doesn't connect with anything else. Pluto is at 26 degrees in Capricorn, and that allows you to work differently for a different result, different outcome. So if you've always been an IT technician, maybe you write your own blog today. Or if you've always been a jeweler, maybe you want to start working with crystals. It's just changing what you're doing for a different result. Okay, let me just have a look to see if there's anything else I've missed. No, that's it. All right, so that's what I get for this full moon in Libra energy. If you're at a crossroads in your life, if you feel like you want to go in a different direction, but you don't know exactly what that looks like, or you feel like you've got a lot of decisions coming up, or you want to find out what your life purpose is, or what you're good at, work-wise, what's destined for you in work, in relationships, and health, and money, and spirituality, then please do get in touch with me for a personal reading. What I can do is I can draw up your birth chart the way I've drawn up the chart of this full moon. I can draw up the moment you were born by taking your date of birth, place of birth, and time of birth. Then I can draw up that chart, your birth chart, your natal chart, and I can really see all of those things, what you're going to be good at, and what the chart says about each of those things in your life, to give you some clarity and hopefully some guidance to help you make decisions. So if you would like to speak to me, please do get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to order your reading with me. I also use the tarot and numerology in my personal reading. So the way I combine the numbers and the astrology in this reading, I combine all three in my personal readings. Also, if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share the video online. Have a fabulous time here during this full moon in Libra. And I will speak to you for the daily tarot readings, the weekly horoscopes. I'll do that on Sunday for the week ahead. And check out some of my other videos if you like on the channel. Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon.